top stories this hour. More than 22 persons killed in mass shooting in Maine. 13 killed in road accident in India. Plus, Hurricane Otis wreaks havoc in Mexico. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I'm Kayla Abraham. Now, no fewer than 22 persons have been killed and many more injured in shootings in the city of Lewiston, Maine on Wednesday evening, with police saying that the gunman was still at large. According to the media, City Councillor Robert McCarthy told reporters that the death toll had risen to 22 and the shooting spree that took place at a bowling alley and also at least one other location, a local restaurant and bar. McCarthy disclosed the rescue vehicles rushed in from around central Maine to tend to the wounded, and then two Lewiston hospitals have called in every off-duty staff member that they could to deal with the situation. The White House noted that President Joe Biden made calls while a state dinner honoring Australia's Prime Minister was underway to Maine's governor, its two senators, and a local congressman to offer federal support. Local police posted a photo of the shooter on Facebook carrying what appeared to be a semi-automatic style weapon inside the bowling alley. They later issued a bulletin for 40-year-old Robert Card, saying the suspect in the mass shooting should be considered armed and dangerous. They also released a picture of a white SUV car and asked for the public's help in identifying the vehicle, saying its front bumper may have been painted in black. And Maine Governor Janet Mills stated that she was aware of and had been briefed on the active shooter situation in Lewiston. The shooting is one of the deadliest since 2017, when a gunman opened fire on a crowded music festival in Las Vegas, killing some 60 people. Gun violence is alarmingly common in the United States, a country where there are more guns than people and where attempts to clamp down on their spread are always met with stiff resistance. According to the Gun Violence Archive, a non-governmental organization that defines a mass shooting as 4 or more people wounded or killed, stated that the United States has recorded over 500 mass shootings this year. Now, Indian police have disclosed that 13 people were killed when the SUV they were traveling in crashed into a stationary tanker on Thursday morning. They noted that the accident occurred on the outskirts of the district headquarters town of Chikkabalapur in the morning. The vehicle was flying from Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh to Bengaluru when the driver crashed into the stationary tanker on NH44, killing 13 passengers, including 4 women. Preliminary probe has stated that the victims, including the driver of the four-wheeler, who also died in the accident, hail from Anantapur district. A senior police officer stated that the exact cause of the accident is yet to be ascertained. However, low visibility due to fog is suspected to be one of the reasons, which needs to be verified. Meanwhile, Canada has welcomed India's decision to resume some visa services in the country from Thursday, saying the move was a good sign after an anxious time for many Canadians amid a diplomatic row over the killing of a Sikh separatist. India's High Commission in Canada stated on Wednesday that the country's officials will resume processing some types of visa applications for Canadians applying from across the country as well as abroad. The decision came a month after New Delhi suspended the services in Canada and for Canadian citizens worldwide as tensions fled between the two nations last month following Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's allegation of the potential involvement of Indian agents in the killing of Khalistani extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar on June 18 in British Columbia. On Wednesday afternoon, Immigration Minister Mark Miller called India's move a good sign after an anxious time for his many Canadians. Emergency Preparedness Minister Harjit Sajjan, who is also a Sikh, stated that the resumption of visa processing is good news, but wouldn't speculate on what message New Delhi is trying to send. Now, Israeli ground forces operated within the northern Gaza Strip on Thursday, attacking multiple Hamas targets before withdrawing. The military mentioned this in a statement in what it described as the biggest incursion of the current war. Video of the overnight action issued by the military showed armored vehicles proceeding through a sandy border zone. A bulldozer is seen leveling part of a raised bank, tanks fire shells, and explosions are seen near or a middle row of damaged buildings. The military statement posted online noted that the incursion was carried out in preparation for the next stages of combat, a possible reference to the large-scale invasion that Israeli leaders have threatened as part of the war to destroy Hamas. Israel began localized ground incursions on Sunday as the war triggered by an October 7 cross-border rampage by Hamas gunmen entered its third week. Meanwhile, church leaders in Jerusalem have made a renewed call for ceasefire after an Israeli airstrike on the compound of St. Porphyros Greek Orthodox Church in Gaza reportedly killed 18 people, including 9 children. Among the dead was a staff member of Caritas Jerusalem, a Roman Catholic aid agency, along with her child and husband. On Sunday, the patriarchs and the head of churches published a joint statement condemning the attack in the strongest possible terms and describing it as the latest instance of innocent civilians being injured or killed as a result of missile strikes against other shelters of last resort. The group, which includes the Anglican Archbishop in Jerusalem, the Most Reverend Hossam Naum, pledged to maintain their charitable institutions and houses of worship in Gaza despite orders to evacuate. The situation in Gaza has worsened as the enclave remains under bombardment and blockade from Israel. The church leaders call for a humanitarian ceasefire so that food, water, and vital medical supplies can be safely delivered. On Saturday, the first aid convoys were able to enter Gaza from Egypt. The Egyptian government had reportedly been unwilling to allow traffic through the Rafah border crossing into the south of Gaza, owing to Israeli airstrike near the border. The previous day, Christian Aid had appealed for aid trucks to be let through in large numbers, emphasizing the need for fuel, which was running short. Israeli concerns about bolstering Hamas have meant that aid supplies have not included fuel. Now, North Korea's foreign ministry has accused Israel of bombing a hospital in the Gaza Strip on October 17, saying it had openly committed a war crime under the undisguised patronage of the United States. In a statement carried on state-run news agency, a military spokesman also blamed the United States for giving Israel a green light to massacre Palestinians without any worries about supplying it with weapons and military support, including deploying aircraft carriers in the Middle East. The Foreign Ministry's statement did not give any evidence to support its comment. Meanwhile, North Korean state media has often argued against Western views, especially those of the United States on international issues. It also routinely lashes out at the United States. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza has mentioned that 471 people were killed in a blast at the Al-Ali Al-Arabi hospital earlier this month. Palestinians and Arab states disclosed that an Israeli airstrike hit the hospital. Now, Hurricane Otis has battered the resort town of Acapulco as it tore across Mexico's Pacific coast on Wednesday. Otis developed into a potentially catastrophic Category 5 storm with maximum sustained winds of 265 kilometers per hour when it hit the coast before dissipating. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador personally joined an official convoy heading for the seaside city by the road. Authorities stated that Otis took out communications in the southern state of Guerrero, making it hard to assess initial damage. However, footage posted on social media showed buildings ripped open with destroyed cars submerged in flood waters. Tourists were seen using mattresses as protective shields in their hotel rooms, and there were no immediate reports of fatalities. Now, the upper house of the Russian parliament has voted to rescind Russia's signing of a 1996 international nuclear test ban treaty. The treaty was never ratified by the US, China, India, Pakistan, North Korea, Israel, Iran, or Egypt. Russia's military conducted a simulated nuclear strike and a drill on Wednesday, overseen by President Vladimir Putin, hours after the upper house of parliament voted to resign the country's ratification of a global nuclear test ban. The bill to end ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, approved in the lower house last week, will now be sent to Putin for final approval. Putin has said that revoking Russia's 2000 ratification would mirror the stance of the US, which signed but did not ratify the nuclear test ban. State television showed Putin directing the exercise via video call with top military officials. Russia's Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, disclosed that the purpose of the drills is to practice dealing a massive nuclear strike with strategic offensive forces in response to a nuclear strike by the enemy. Meanwhile, Russia and China have vetoed a US-led draft resolution in the UN Security Council that would have called for humanitarian pauses in fighting to allow aid access to Gaza, while a rival text by Moscow on the Israel-Hamas conflict failed to garner enough votes in its favor. The 15-nation UN Security Council voted on two rival draft resolutions tabled by Washington and Moscow on the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. The first resolution by the US affirmed the right of member states to defend themselves against threats to peace and security posed by acts of terrorism. It called for all measures, specifically humanitarian pauses, to allow for full, rapid, safe and unhindered access into Gaza territory ruled by Hamas militants. The Council's permanent members, Russia and China, vetoed the US-led resolution. The UAE also voted against the draft, which received 10 votes in favor. That is Albania, France, Ecuador, Gabon, Ghana, Japan, Malta, Switzerland, UK, US, and 2 abstentions by Brazil and Mozambique. Before the vote on the resolution, US Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, stated that Washington has worked to forge consensus around a resolution that is strong and balanced. Now, the US, Japan, and South Korea on Thursday strongly condemned North Korea's allegedly providing military equipment and munitions to Russia for its war against Ukraine. In a joint declaration by the U.S. State Department, the 3 countries' top diplomats stated that they have confirmed some weapon deliveries from North Korea to Russia. The top diplomats claimed that in return, North Korea is seeking military assistance from Russia to advance its own military capabilities. Last week, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited Pyongyang and met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. His visit came after Kim made a week-long official trip to Russia last month, where he held summit-level talks with President Vladimir Putin. Now, the United States and Saudi Arabia have disclosed that they will resume talks in Jeddah aimed at achieving a ceasefire in Sudan. Reports reveal that the representatives of Sudan's army and paramilitary rapid support forces RSF have arrived in the Saudi port city for the talks. Previous peace talks in Jeddah city collapsed in June after numerous ceasefire violations. However, this time it is understood that the mediation effort will include an African facilitator from the Regional Development Bloc (IGAD). 6 months of conflicts between the Sudanese army and the RSF has created a humanitarian catastrophe. More than 9,000 persons have been killed and about 6 million others displaced. Now, the World Bank will loan South Africa $1 billion to help the country resolve its energy crisis as it battles with its worst ever power cuts. There has been power since 2007, but they have escalated in recent years, causing blackouts of up to 16 hours a day. According to the World Bank, the African power cuts have severely impacted South Africa's economy, slowing its GDP growth. More than 80% of South Africa's electricity is generated by burning coal. As a result, the country is ranked as the world's 14th largest emitter of carbon dioxide. The World Bank disclosed that the loan will allow South Africa to reform the country's state-owned power company, Eskom, which has more than $26 billion of debt. In the same vein, World Rugby says there is insufficient evidence that Munabi racially abused England's Tom Curry in the semi-final. World Rugby disclosed that the South Africa hooker Bongi Mbonabi has been cleared to play in the Rugby World Cup final after it found insufficient evidence to pursue England flanker Tom Curry's allegation that he was racially abused. Mbonabi, the only specialist hooker in the Springbok squad as they prepare to face New Zealand in Paris on Saturday, was investigated after Curry made the allegation during the first half of last week's semi-final, which South Africa won 16-15. Meanwhile, the South African currency rand has weakened in early trade on Thursday ahead of September producer inflation figures and dragged down by a stronger dollar as U.S. Treasury yields spiked on fears that interest rates will remain high. At the early hours of Thursday, the rand traded at 19.215 against the dollar, about 0.5% weaker than its previous close. The dollar last traded around 0.2% stronger against a basket of global currencies. Now, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi disclosed on Wednesday that his country was playing a very positive role trying to de-escalate and find a diplomatic solution to the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Egypt has taken an active role in negotiating access to aid for people in Gaza through the Rafah crossing, which it shares with Gaza, as well as in negotiations for hostage releases while advocating for a ceasefire in the conflict. Inspecting scores of Egyptian warplanes, tanks, and other military hardware at an exercise on the western edge of the Sinai Peninsula, about 215 kilometers from Egypt's border with the Gaza Strip. He added that though Egypt had considerable military capabilities, it would only ever use them wisely and in self-defense. Sisi, who met French President Emmanuel Macron in Cairo later on Wednesday, revealed that the military exercise had been intended for events to mark the 50th anniversary of the 1973 war against Israel that started on October 6, but had been postponed due to the conflict. Speaking with Macron, Sisi revealed that both leaders had agreed that any move to displace Gazans into Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, a move he had previously warned that Egypt would not bear and would be extremely dangerous. Sisi lastly added that the two men agreed to work to contain the crisis and prevent other actors from entering the fray. Now, a Kenyan member of parliament was ordered to remove a traditional Palestinian scarf he was wearing during parliamentary proceedings on Wednesday. Farah Malim disclosed that he was wearing the scarf in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza amid the fighting between Israel and Hamas. He stated that Palestine needs the support of everybody in Kenya, but the Speaker of the National Assembly ordered the MP to remove the scarf, saying the government violated parliamentary rules. Fellow members of the parliament also condemned the legislature for disrespecting the House rules. It comes a few days after Kenyan police briefly detained 3 persons for participating in a pro-Palestinian meeting in the capital, Nairobi. President William Ruto has expressed his government's full support for Israel in the ongoing conflict. Meanwhile, traders disclosed that the Kenyan shilling lost ground against the dollar on Wednesday due to elevated hard currency demand across all sectors and thin supply. As at the early hours of Thursday, commercial banks quoted the shilling at 150.15 per 35 to the US dollar, compared to with Wednesday's close of 150.00 per $20. Now, authorities in the Central African Republic say they have reached an agreement with Rochefort International, which owns Total Centrifuge, to end the fuel crisis that hit the country recently. Total Centrifuge's customs operations was suspended after the government said it owed oil taxes of over $3.3 million. The closure of its petrol stations for about 2 weeks led to a fuel crisis, causing long queues at others that were open. Energy Minister Bernard Athopiri stated that all the points were discussed, making it possible to reach an agreement. He added that Rochefort International will now continue Total's fuel import work while engaging in talks with the Ministry of Finance on how to pay its tax debt. A representative of the energy firm revealed they were satisfied with the agreements reached with the government. Total Centrifuge, which was recently bought by Rochefort International, is a key supplier of fuel in the Central African Republic. Now, Zimbabwe's main opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa, has disclosed that his party will not participate in what he described as criminal by-elections to fill 15 seats for members who were controversially recalled from parliament. The seats were left vacant after a man who declared himself as the Citizens Coalition for Change (CCC) party's interim Secretary General stated that the members of parliament were no longer members. Consequently, by-elections have been scheduled for 9 December after the parliamentary speaker declared the seats vacant earlier this month. Chamisa dismissed the recalling of the lawmaker, stating Sengezo Tsabanku, the self-declared Secretary General of the party, was an imposter. In an interview on Wednesday, Chamisa revealed his party will not waste time participating in unconstitutional by-elections. A case challenging the recall of the members of parliament will be held on 2nd of November. Now, Nigeria's Supreme Court is due to rule on whether to uphold the disputed election victory of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His two main challengers, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Peter Obi of the Labour Party, are seeking to overturn the February presidential election, alleging that it was marred by irregularities. The Supreme Court had 60 days to pass its judgment, but it has decided to fast-track the ruling after hearing the argument of the challengers on Monday. Abubakar put forward new evidence, disclosing that the certificate that President Tinubu presented to the election authorities differed from the one purportedly issued by Chicago State University. The other challenger, Obi, stated that Tinubu was not qualified to vie for Nigeria's presidency at the time he did. They insist the country's highest votes should quash the judgment of the Election Petition Court, which upheld Tinubu's victory last month. If it opposed the decision of the lower court, that would be following a pattern seen in previous elections in Africa's most populous nation, where a presidential election result has never been overturned. And that is it on the World News and VOP TV. I'm Kayla Abraham. VOP Business Show is coming up next.